Hello everybody and welcome to Dan Salm's Tech, and I hope you're doing well. And today we're catching up on news from the last couple of days. From AMD we've got the Ryzen 9 3900, the Ryzen 5 3500X, they've had ray tracing since July, a new motherboard has been spotted, and they're changing the CCX structure for Zen 3. Moving on, we have news from Nvidia on Ampere, and Google Stadia is making some pretty bold statements. So let's roll that intro and jump straight on into it. So let's start things off quickly with the Ryzen 9 3900, the little brother to the 3900X. It still has the same 12 cores and 24 threads. However, when it comes to clock speeds, the base clock is 3.1 GHz and the boost clock is 4.3 GHz. That's a 700 MHz base clock and a 300 MHz boost clock lower than the 3900X. It has a TDP of 65 watts compared to 105 watts on the 3900X, and it also has a dedicated 512 KB of L2 cache per core and an overall 64 MB of L3 cache. However, there's still lots of room for overclocking, but it's only available to system integrators and OEMs. So moving on to the Ryzen 5 3500X and tests done by EXPreview. Now we know that the Ryzen 5 3500X is a 6-core 6-thread CPU without SMT. It comes with a base clock of 3.6 GHz and a boost clock of up to 4.1 GHz. The test benches used here were the MSI Mortimer Titanium B450M motherboard for AMD and the B360M for Intel. They used the XFX RX 5700 XT Blackwolf Edition GPU, accompanied by 8GB of FlareX memory from G.Skill at 3200 MHz and a cache latency of 14, and they used a 4K monitor. So it's time for the results, and they put the Ryzen 5 3500X up against Intel's i5 9400F and the Ryzen 5 3600. Now in productivity benchmarks, it does look like the 3500X does have an edge over the 9400F in both single core and multi-threaded workloads. However, with that aside, when it comes to the 3600, it does prove how much AMD's simultaneous multi-threading performance is crucial in these types of tests. The only difference bar the threads is the 3600 does have a 100 MHz higher boost clock, but the 12 threads over the 6 threads does outperform both CPUs in a lot of benchmarks. However, the i5 9400F does win in applications that do favour Intel. So moving on to the gaming benchmarks, and the 8 games that were tested show that the Ryzen 5 3500X and the 3600 win in a few games. It also shows that Intel win in a few as well, and when they do beat each other, it's only by a fraction of FPS if that. So all three are able to handle games pretty decently. You may be asking why. Well, a lot of the time it's going to be down to your GPU, which will always often or not be the bottleneck of your system, as not all games will take advantage of all the cores in a CPU. The bad news is that the Ryzen 5 3500X is only going to be sold in China and to OEMs. So AMD are going to be changing the CCX structure for Zen 3. At present, the CCX is comprised of 4 cores and 16 MB of L3 cache, like the Zen architecture. When it came to Zen 2, and they doubled this with their chiplet design, giving us 8 cores and 32 MB of L3 cache. So for instance, let's take the 3600, which is a 6-core processor. They disabled 1 core in each CCX. Now, the likes of the Ryzen 9 3950X has a multiple of chiplets. So, one CCD will hold 2 CCXs, which each CCX holding 4 processor cores and 60 MB of L3 cache, equating to 16 cores and 32 threads and 64 MB of L3 cache. So with the Zen 3 architecture, this will all change. The cache will be a single unit. So to simplify this, instead of having 4 CCXs, we're going to see the chiplet itself become the CCX. Milan is going to be a multi-chip module, and each chiplet will have 8 cores and 16 threads with 32 MB of L3 cache, giving us the 64 cores and 128 threads. But judging by what we see here, could this mean we receive 256 MB of L3 cache overall? So moving on to third generation Threadripper motherboards, and over at MSI in a promo called Shoutout, they were offering Steam cards for reviews on their products, where the creator TRX40 was spotted. However, since then it has been taken down, and whoever put it there got into a spot of bother. However, this does confirm the naming scheme for the next lineup of motherboards. However, they will not be backwards compatible. Rehulation, a tech journalist, tweeted confirmation from ASRock, who are working on a TRX40 Tai-Chi. However, this does confirm that 3rd generation Threadripper won't be backwards compatible with the X399 platform. So the last bit of news for AMD is that they've had ray tracing since July. Watch Driver Diving over the Radeon Adrenalin 19.7.2 edition for the Gears 5 beta, references towards ray tracing were found. Now AMD have just had their Chinese partner summit, and we know that they release a massive driver update towards the end of every year with new features. Well, this is going to be no different. We could possibly see ray tracing being presented at a software level, or maybe even Radeon image sharpening that they have been been talking about, or maybe following in the footsteps of Nvidia and Intel with the integer scaling. So up next is Nvidia, and the Ampere architecture is set for the first half of 2020. Now the current lineup of RTX cards are based on the 12nm process. Well, it looks like Nvidia are going to shrink this by half down to the 7nm process for the new Ampere architecture. The density of transistors will also grow by more than 50%, and it's more than likely that Samsung will be the providers of the nodes due to the current issues that TSMC are having. Now our favourite bit of eye candy, ray tracing, will also be expected to be enhanced with allocated hardware and more software support. So up last, let's talk about some cloud-based gaming news from Google Stadia, and a new feature that they're looking at introducing called negative latency. Well, how will they do this? Well, they intend to push really high frame rates to lower the input latency, to act on the player's input a lot quicker, or to predict what button they will press next. This does sound like the VP of Engineering, Maj Bakker, has his head up in the clouds. Google Stadia at launch also claimed to have 4K 60fps, which mainly very high-end PCs can push. In the future, they are also looking at 8K 120fps plus. So the question still left to be answered is, how will this prediction of button presses work in games such as shooters? So that's it all from me today. If you did like this video, then go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Please do tell me your thoughts in the comment section down below. Before you leave, go ahead and click that subscribe button, it'd be greatly appreciated, and hit that bell icon for more notifications from myself. Do share my videos, it's one way that really does help out the channel, and like always, I shall see you in the next video.